And even for myself, I see evidence in my own career that I was the kind of artist that had to feel it. Everything's got to be all aligned. It's like you can wait for things to be aligned and really miss a moment. And I think sometimes we say, what's for you will not pass you by. Like, okay, that feels good. Right. That feels good to comfort yourself when you sat on your hands and didn't show up. But we look at we see those artists that just show up, they do it, and it results in success. Mm-hmm. And I think there's other ways to bring that sense of alignment to your life, right? Like creativity is not the only place that you can feel it. Like you can wake up in the morning and meditate. You can go for a walk. You can play the music that makes you feel it. Mm. But like your craft, like God gave you this gift and you only go visit it when you feel like it because you think you're that special. Mm.
What up, though, Black Fridays family, and welcome back to another installment of the Black Fridays podcast. Today, we have a very special guest in the building, Miss Charity Ward, who is a multi-hyphenate. I just learned that word today. Artist, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm doing great. Appreciate you pulling up to the podcast. So,
of course.
I always give my guests a chance to introduce themselves and to invite us into how they see themselves. So just wondering if you, for the 4 people that don't know who you are, could you tell us who Charity Ward is?
It might be a little more than that. So I'm an artist, really a holistic artist. I find myself like exploring new creative mediums. So like I was really into photography last year. I'm consistently into creative direction and like that kind of stuff. I'm also into like writing outside of songwriting and my own artistry, but ultimately I am an artist, a performing artist, a songwriter. I said performing artist. Yes, I make music. That is at the core of who I am. But there's branches that come from that show up in other creative mediums as well.
And you've been a staple in the Detroit music scene for...
Staple, that's such a wonderful word.
I think it's fair to say you've been a staple in the Detroit music scene for a while. I honestly just became a fan of yours over the last couple of years. But people have been telling me about your work for years and then seeing you perform or hearing about your name on different shows and part of different events. And you started pretty young, right? Like you were like early teens or somewhere around there?
Yeah. So I started playing guitar when I was 13 and that was like my entryway into music. I grew up in church and was singing with my sisters, but it was never anything I was passionate about or wanted to do. Like I wanted to be a sports journalist and that kind of thing. I was not creative at all. So when I started playing guitar, I was like, oh, I'm good at this, better at this than I've been at anything. But then I started doing shows around like, I think 16. I had my first like real show at the Ribs and Soul Fest. I had like the first slot of the day. It was like 12 p.m. But even then I was like, oh yeah, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah.
That's dope. Yeah. That's dope. And then, so what kind of drew you to music? Was it always like a natural attraction to it? Like you said, you're singing with your sisters, or did you do it because like where do you fall in the lineup of your sisters?
I'm the third daughter. So I have an older sister named Sade. Chanel is next. Then there's me, and I have a baby sister, Shalia. I didn't like singing with my sisters at all. I have like a lower voice. So I was always the alto. There's nothing glamorous. Really probably the tenor. There's nothing glamorous about that note, or at least there wasn't for me at the time. So it's selfish. What drew me to music is that if I finally found something that made me feel like good about myself. And I was an awkward teenager. I was very much like, you know, I had my sisters to look up to, and my sister Sade, she was like winning pageants. My sister Chanel was like born gorgeous and like very, just people love her. And I was like, kind of like a tomboy, and just like an awkward third child. And so when I started writing songs and people were like, this is brilliant, I'm like, I'm brilliant. Oh, I like how it feels for somebody to tell me that I've made something noteworthy. And it's kind of an addictive feeling for me. And then I also find so much joy in the process of making music that I'm never going to stop going back to that.
I love it. I love it. So now that we got a peek into your world, I'm going to come back to that because I definitely want to learn more about your creative process. But I'm going to intro you to my favorite part of Black Fridays, which is Freestyle Fridays. And because you're an artist, this shouldn't be an issue with you freestyling, right?
Oh my God.
You can I got a guitar over here in the corner.
Do you really have a guitar?
I don't.
Oh, okay.
I don't.
I'm like, please, if I have to freestyle, I hope I can play an instrument.
But you don't know musical instruments needed. It's all random questions about you. So you should get them right.
I thought I had to rap.
No.
Okay. I was like, I started like preparing myself.
I mean, you're the artist, so I'm not going to stop you if you want to rap.
But I also wasn't going to like, I wasn't going to punk out. Like I was scared, but I was going to do it. I was going to rap.
Make it happen.
But I'm glad that we don't. I'm glad I don't have
to. For sure. So I just ask that you answer every question and you answer honestly. That's it.
Okay.
All right. So growing up, favorite cartoon?
Hey Arnold.
Hey Arnold. Hey, that's a classic.
It's so peaceful for me. The colors, the tones, the jazz music. I love it.
Hey Arnold, fire. Mm-hmm. Do you have any, it's a two-part question, collaborations that you would like to make happen within the city of Detroit, and then also any collaborators that you would like to work with just in general from a musical standpoint?
Within the city of Detroit, who would I like to work with? And they're here. They're still here now. I would like this. I'm such a neo soul head. I would love to do a track with Dwelle. And I know Dwelle pretty, like not pretty well, but like we see each other. It's all love. I would like a Charity Dwelle collab. What was the second part of that question?
Anybody in general outside of Detroit.
Oh, my dream collaboration is Frank Ocean.
That'd be fire.
Yeah,
I like
it's like my favorite writer.
Can we also get Sada Baby on the More Cake remix?
I would love that.
Me too.
I would love that. And the more I've been thinking outside the box and not being such a freaking like art head, I'm like, yeah, get some rappers. There's some Detroit rappers on these songs. Lighten up.
Because he is spaz.
He would.
Yeah.
He'd go crazy. We had to change the drums a little bit
to
like really maximize it for him. But yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
Nice. So because we are from Detroit and the Motor City, do you have a favorite car?
Anything Cadillac. I'm a Cadillac girl. I drive like a simple Cadillac now, but like Cadillac feels very Detroit. It feels like old school in a way that's like fly to me. So yeah.
Agreed. Got my first Caddy. So
nice.
Nice. I'm with you on
Cadillac
that.
gang.
Exactly, gang.
Yeah.
Forget the Jeep folks.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I'm Cadillac.
Right. So I just found out that this is news to me that you were a tomboy growing up and you're into sports. What was your favorite sport?
Basketball, and I was a super Detroit Pistons fanatic. So around there, like I want to call it, it's like a romantic era for me around like 03, 04, 05.
Yep.
So I knew everything there was to know about Chauncey Billups, his stats. I would like argue with the boys about, other basketball teams. I was not missing a game. When they lost to the Spurs in 05, I cried. Like I went and laid on the couch and cried.
Yeah, that was tough.
I have like photos from the parade when they won in 2004. I loved basketball. It was like me and my dad's thing watching basketball, but the Pistons, like they made the city feel so just alive at that time, how they was hooping. So
1,000%.
Yeah.
What is something creatively that you would like to get into that you haven't just yet?
I want to write for television. So I just recently finished a project where a friend of mine reached out to me and said that they needed somebody to write a script for a commercial. And I was like, yes, this is the kind of writing I want to get into, in addition to songwriting, of course. But sometimes I'll watch episodes of like my favorite TV shows and I'm like, I could have been in the writer's room. Like, or I'll get high and like start thinking about something like that's real goofy. And I'm like, I should write for TV. I feel like I could write for like Atlanta, but also like Rick and Morty. Like some of the thoughts that come to my head, I'm like, I could write for TV.
Your comedic timing for both of those shows, there's two different sides of the spectrum, but your comedic timing got to be like on point for either one of those.
And the thing about Rick and Morty, it's like you got to get to this sick part of your brain and like make that funny. Right. And I am able to like go there often. And then Atlanta, it's like dry humor. It's like this awkward. We really typically don't see Black actors showing up, or even writers like showing up in that way. And I think as the like artsy homeschool kid, I know how to like get in there too.
Know how to push that button.
Yes,
nice.
Definitely.
Well, congrats to you. You successfully passed Freestyle Friday.
Thank you.
It was easy peasy.
Didn't even have to rap.
Right. It was a layup. Didn't break a sweat. So I wanted to learn more about the fact that you're a creative and thinking about your songwriting process, how do you kind of get into the flow of being able to create from that standpoint and getting into writing and coming up with like melodies and stuff like that? Because your stuff seems to come from a personal place, like a very, like you do it. It's like an introspective look into like what's going on with Charity at that point in time, just listening to it. So I'm curious, like, how do you get that out of you and turn that into music?
I think there's two ways that you can approach songwriting and creativity in general. And there's two ways that I approach it. And so there's this analogy that I'll use, like, you know how like on a beautiful summer night, you might find yourself like racing in the street. You grown as hell, but like everything feels good. There's fireflies in the sky. The weather's perfect. Maybe you got a buzz. Maybe you had a drink and you challenge your friend to a race, right? So you get like physical activity from that race, but you're not working out. Like it's all joy. It's all inspiration. And so I would say that when I get inspired and a song just hits me, it's like that. It's like racing in the street on a summer night. It just flows. And yes, you broke a sweat, but like it was all for the love of the moment. And then there's going to the gym. There's getting up in the morning, and despite the fact that you don't feel like it, going to the gym and working out because it is what's best for you. And I've learned over time that I have to do a lot more of that if I'm going to be the artist that I want to be, right? And so I'm still learning how to be consistent in that way, because inspiration, racing in the street feels way better than going to the gym and like forcing yourself to do the 45-minute workout. But that is going to be so much more rewarding in the long run. It's going to transform. You're going to get stronger. It's going to transform your body, whole nine. And so I'm very recently learning that that's what creativity has to be. And it's not always going to feel like falling in love. It's not always going to feel euphoric. But I never regret it at the end of that session where I'm like, I'm not inspired. I don't have anything to say, but I'm going to write a song. Something beautiful comes to me every single time. And so I'm learning to honor the part of it that is just showing up. I learned this concept from a book called Big Magic. It's written by Elizabeth Gilbert. She wrote Eat, Pray, Love. She is like one of my leading voices on creativity. I think there's another really popular book that she wrote too, but it's escaping me. Big Magic is like, if you're creative, you got to read it. She talks about how we all have muses, and they're like these supernatural forces or powers that are looking to see like who they can trust with an idea, and how more than half the battle is showing up and sitting at your desk, or for me, going to my home studio, showing up and like trusting or causing the muses to trust me. I can trust her with this idea because she's going to show up. So that book was transformational for me, because I was like, oh, before the end, like I was writing off inspiration alone. And I think that's cool. But if you really want to be consistent and build a career and make some money, then you got to show up when you don't feel like it. So
that's very intriguing, because I always wonder, like, what was that creative process for certain artists? Because you get the people who is like the artsy people who really like get deep into it. Like, I gotta feel it. It has to be a thing. And then you have people like a Rick Ross, or at one point in time like a Ludacris. I think about them. They're putting out music every year, no matter what. Like Gucci, like just every time I'm dropping something, it don't matter how it sound, how it look. Like I'm just packaging it up and getting it out there. That's
such a myth that you gotta feel it, and I'm still telling myself that you don't gotta feel it. Like, that will come later. Sometimes the beauty of creativity is saying, I love you so much that I'm just going to show up for you. And I think we have to be like that in all of our relationships, right? We learn as we get older, even in love, right? We want to fall head over heels for somebody. We want to be sick to the stomach with how much we love a person in order to really commit. But sometimes it's like, I'm going to honor the goodness of who you are as a person by committing to you. And I'm going to allow the magic to show up as it decides to along the way. I'm learning that in life in general. Like, you don't always have to feel it. Sometimes the feeling will come later if you just honor your relationship with creativity by showing up. Yep. And so I think the people who gotta feel it, and even for myself, I see evidence in my own career that I was the kind of artist that had to feel it. Everything's gotta be all aligned. It's like you can wait for things to be aligned and really miss a moment. And I think sometimes we say, what's for you will not pass you by. Like, okay, that feels good. Right. That feels good to comfort yourself when you sat on your hands and didn't show up. But we look at those, we see those artists that just show up, they do it, and it results in success. And I think there's other ways to bring that sense of alignment to your life, right? Like, creativity is not the only place that you can feel it. Like, you can wake up in the morning and meditate. You can go for a walk. You can play the music that makes you feel it. But like your craft, like God gave you this gift and you only go visit it when you feel like it because you think you're that special. Like, I'm really getting out of that kind of thinking because I've been writing since I was like 14. And so half my life I've had that mentality. And sometimes I'm like, man, how many songs would I be in? What publishing deal would I be on? Would I live in LA by now if I didn't always have to feel it? And I mean, who knows? God is in control ultimately, but I think the shift is important for creatives like myself.
We might have to pass around a collection plate. You started preaching for a minute. You started preaching for a minute, for sure. And everything that you said, it made me think about a little bit of our conversation we had before we started recording about you learning more or leaning more into the business side of the show business, as they call it, and just wanted to talk to you about what your journey has been like from being the super creative, gotta feel it, gotta all those type of things in order for it to happen versus like, okay, no, I understand more of the business aspect of it, and I need to take those things and then make that accumulated bag.
Yeah. So we'll have to circle back around on this like in a year and see like what the fruits of this ended up being for me. But what I'll say is in March, I started dating a person who is totally different than me. He's like, it's all about getting to it, right? Like, get to the bag, like hustle. Yes, you're brilliant. You're going to be brilliant anyway. Like, figure out how to make some money. And when I say this person is different than me, I mean very different. Like, it almost showed me like, oh, there's two sides to Detroit. Like, there's like these artsy fartsy kids who like take themselves too seriously, and it's all about the aesthetics and it being curated. And Dusty McFly even said on one of his interviews with a friend of mine, Jen, he was saying that for Detroit rap, you have the children of Blade and then the children of Dilla, right? And so, of course, I'm not a rapper, but I'm like, oh, if I was, I'm easily on the Dilla side, right? Like the musicians that play and that take their time with it, right? And then you have the people on the other side that's like, what's working right now? Right. What are people into? Right. What are the opportunities that we might be missing and how can we get on them? We look at people like that and we're like, we like judge their Instagram feed, like what it looks like. Like we feel like we're above them, right? And in some ways, you know, we do probably have a closer relationship with creativity. But I decided inside of this relationship, like, no, I want a close relationship with money and creativity, and I get to have both. But I will not have both if I have this self-important disposition of I do it when I feel like it. Because there's so many people out there that do it whether they feel like it or not. And everybody don't care that you're brilliant. There is a group of people who care that you're brilliant and who rewind your verse over and over to zero in on the lyrics. Yes, they exist. There's a bunch of people who don't give a damn. And you're missing out on them because you take a whole week to write a verse and you take 3 years to put projects out. And so I think I had just never even gone on that other side. I was very comfy and cozy with my highly creative, highly aesthetic community of people. And so being in an intimate space with a person that's like, there's another way to look at this. I'm like, oh, I need that too. So, but I am very early in this, what I call software update, because this is like as of March, it's July now. So I still find myself like pushing back. Like, well, I don't feel like writing. I'm in a bad mood. I gave today my best.
Right.
And I will go to sleep, you know, but I recognize that that's something that I have to conquer in order to really get where I need to be. And I don't feel like it's too late for me to get where I need to be. And I actually feel like all the time that I spent being like highly creative, it developed a really strong artist. And so now I'm like, yeah, now you're ready to like kind of crank them out now.
Right. Because you kind of...
I'm developed.
Right.
Yeah.
So you've been able to craft that or lock in on the creative side and be like, hey, I've been building on this for a very long time.
Half
now that
my
I got
life.
this figured out, I can formulate this to the business side.
Yeah. Half my life I have been really developing as a creative. I've been listening to what I think, you know, are the best writers, Frank Ocean and Andre 3000, those people that is like, what did you say? You know, I've been focused on that for so long. It's funny, like I just started doing reels, like covers, right? And my uncles would tell me, my uncles are very invested in my career. They'd be like, you need to do a career. You need to do a reel. I said, career. You need to do a reel. And I'd be like, no, I don't do covers. Like, I'm a songwriter. I'm not going to let people begin to associate me with other people's music. Like, I write my own music. And it's like, get over yourself. Literally, I've done 2 reels, covers, both of them, and gotten 10,000 new followers over the past 2 months because I finally was able to humble myself and do a cover, you know? So it's like I'm seeing how the way that I've looked at things has been very protective of my creativity. And it's like, Charity, even when you cover somebody else's music, it's highly creative. They feel your originality in that. And if they really connect, they'll go find your originals and then they'll be blown away. But it's like a creative like myself, or what my mindset was, it's like, I would rather not be associated with covers and singing other people's music, even if that means that those people will eventually find my own. It's like, what? So all of these updates are happening, and I'm seeing in real time and like real numbers that it makes a difference to just do it sometimes.
Do you have any other like new strategies or approaches that you've been able to implement that's been able to help out with some of that?
I want to be careful about what I say, because once I'll say it, because that means I got to do it. I want to release a single every month. So the way that I've thought about song making and song releasing is like, I'm in a certain season in my life and I want to put all these songs together so that people can experience a full body of work. It's like, well, the world doesn't really work like that anymore. We don't have the patience to wait on you to make a full body of work, Beyonce. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, you with your like small community of followers, like you actually need to be putting music out every month. So I think what I can handle is putting out a single a month, a visual. And I'd like to be putting out a reel every week. Jesus. I haven't figured that out yet. Yeah, I haven't figured either out yet, but this is my goal. That is the consistency level that I want. Detaching from a body of work though, oh God, I don't want to do that. Like, I want to put 12 songs out that show people who I've become after Tenderheaded. I don't want to do it as like, I don't want to do a la carte. I want a spread.
Yeah. Right.
And I think I'll get to do that again. But on the front end, I got to be a little bit more like, almost like hors d'oeuvres. Like, here, try this, try that. Let's get y'all, let's keep your appetite like, you know, a little bit satisfied and wanting a little bit more.
Just a little something for your palate.
Just a little something.
Yeah.
A little song, video, couple reels, keep me in the forefront. But I'm obsessed with artists like Frank Ocean. And Frank ain't doing none of that. Frank is like, I'm going to drop a project every decade, damn near. Yeah. It's going to be mind-blowing to people like me, at least. And I'm not on social media and I barely perform. And so I think in my idolizing artist like himself. I'm like, well, I want to do it like that too. But unfortunately, I don't think we live in a time where artists can break in that way. I think there's some rare cases. It's not going to be me though, and I've accepted that.
Got you.
Yeah.
Like that. I like that. Now, it sounds like a little bit of that Detroit hustle as well coming out in you. Like that grit. Like I know how to make it happen. I know it's going to work for me, and I got to get it going.
Yeah. If you look at my last 2 projects, Tenderheaded was an album that was written over years. So Double Dutch, I wrote about a boyfriend. I'll be honest, a boyfriend that I had when I was 21. Elephant, I wrote about the boyfriend before that. Black Magic and Self Love were inspired by the boyfriend I had when I was living in Nashville and I was like in my mid-20s. Mr. Time, I was like a little bit older. So I'm like, it's almost like miseducation of Lauryn Hill. I tell people all the time, like, nah, Lauryn Hill had time to write them songs. She wrote them songs over her life. And then Seasoned, my 3-song holiday EP, I put all of that together, everything. The video, the cover art, the songs, the process of getting the songs produced, everything happened over like a 3-week process. And it showed me like you are beyond capable of pushing songs out. I was actually listening to my Christmas music the other day, very much in July, like listening to Days Like Christmas and Snowed In. And I was like so impressed with the writing. I'm like, you are the writer that you are, whether you go fast or take your time. So you might as well go fast because everybody else is. You know what I mean? Yep. Like, you don't get a cookie for going slow.
Right.
You miss out on an audience that would literally eat up anything you put out. So I stress this so much because there's so many artists, especially those of us who were told as like kids. Like I was 13 when I started impressing people with my music. So in these formative years, you start to value things that don't necessarily translate into success in your adulthood. And so I was just told that I was highly creative as a kid. Like, you're highly creative. Like, what? You wrote that? And so the highly creative values being affirmed as a creator. The hustler values making some money.
There we go.
Be a highly creative hustler.
Right. Exactly. Because capitalism, of course.
Yeah. Don't get left behind.
Exactly. Please don't. Please don't. And I'm curious as far as your music career. So it's interesting when you had mentioned that now you feel like you're starting to lean more into the business side of it, because I always wondered for a lot of the performances that you had or stages you got a chance to share with some like household names. How do those opportunities come about for an artist like yourself who's independent, who's still, finding your way as far as like what does the whole picture look like? How does that work in terms of getting gigs or opportunities like that?
Most gigs have come to me, honestly, because I have developed sort of a reputation as a strong live performer in Detroit, right? So, I mean, there's some stuff that I've gone after or, who do I got to talk to about opening for so-and-so? But when I was like maybe 2010, when I actually left TSU where I went to school for a while, came back and I had a manager, Drake Pfeiffer. He's with Urban Organic, still putting on shows, curating really cool experiences, particularly like in the neo-soul genre. He was managing me for a while. And so he was putting me on stage. So when Eric Roberson came to town, I opened. When Bilal came to town, I opened. Kindred, the Family Soul, I was just opening for everybody because he was the promoter bringing them in. Of course, you put your artist on. And so I was strong enough of a performer where that translated to other people saying, well, if we need an artist to open, especially a musician, especially if we need a girl, call Charity. So right now I'm self-managed and I still get those opportunities. But I also curate my own shows too. And those have been some of my most successful events where I'm just like, I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to collaborate with some people around the city who believe and who will maybe give me the venue for free, but they take all the drinks, money or whatever. So like the soiree, really the last couple shows we've done at Del Mar, Kenny Valentino has been incredible about making sure I have a space just to showcase my work. So I think I've built a reputation here, but I'm excited to build that in other cities and markets as well.
For sure. And I love what you said about being able to curate your own shows and experiences, because I think as an artist, that's probably fulfilling for you, but then also just working and having different conversations around people who do business or go into business for themselves. I'm a huge proponent of like pop-ups and doing things like that. I feel like that's how you really get a chance to build community, build a network, build new opportunities, because like it's really the epitome of grassroots and like really like setting your foundation.
Yes, I've done a few. So the first one that I did was on March. It was like right before, it was 313. So March 13th. This was the day before quarantine, like the mandated quarantine went into effect. So that was 2 weeks after Tenderheaded came out. It was at a beautiful venue that's no longer, I don't think they're open anymore, but in Detroit. And so I did that show. That was my release show. And then I did a 1-year anniversary for Tenderheaded at my loft. I no longer live there, but it was really like a live stream kind of concert, but I sold 15 tickets. I cleared all my furniture out and did like floor pillows. And I had told people like there's only gonna be 15 tickets to actually come see it in person. Everybody else will have to catch the live stream. And just, 15 is not a crazy number at all. But the way that people were like waiting like for the tickets to go on sale and like devastated that they didn't get one, it's like there's something really special about exclusivity and being able to create really up close and personal moments that I'm not letting go. Like in all my ways of like learning to hustle now, I'm always going to find a way to get a few people in a room and create that sense of like, damn, I was in Charity's living room listening to her perform. And then we did, I think the summer after that, we did Del Mar Rooftop. And that was like a pivotal experience for me because I was really able to like, put the mic to the crowd at moments where I just didn't feel like singing on like, whatever, not the most popular song off the album. And they knew every word. Like, and we did well. Like we sold out. I've typically always been able to sell out. So yeah, those moments where I'm doing my own, it's like, okay, I don't have to wait on somebody to book me.
Right.
People will come out and they will have a blast.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. What's something that you learned from your fans or that your fans have taught you?
Oh, how do I want to word this? Because I know what the lesson is, but it's such a complex thing. I'll describe it and I'll see if I can summarize it as a lesson. I was really bitter when I put Tenderheaded out because the world shut down right after I put it out, and I was in a flow. I was in a creative flow, and those are hard for me to get into because I take myself too serious. So I had just won the Motown Accelerator grant in 2019, and I had been to New York and LA and was taking meetings, and they had given me funding to put the music out in the way that I wanted to. And I was doing, everything was like Black woman hair centered. And so I had planned to have this conversation series in salons. We had Chicago and Atlanta booked. We had just done Detroit. So I would play some music and we would talk about it. And it was the real organic experience of being in a salon, like what Black women do. And so, of course, all of that's canceled. Like literally February 28th, it came out. The world started shutting down second week of March. And again, at this point, these are the songs that I've written over my life. Some of those songs have already come out on an EP prior to that, but really I kind of saved like my ones for this album. And so, of course, I wasn't able to tour. I wasn't able to do like this rollout. I put it out, I did my show, and I had to sit down. And I pretty much felt like because of that, the album just wouldn't mean a lot to a lot of people. I was like, okay, whatever, we put it out. It's behind me now. And so around, I don't know if they come out in November or December, but Spotify and Apple Music give you like your listening reports and like who your top album, your top song, your top artist. In 2020, I was blown away by the amount of people that had Tenderheaded as their most listened to album and the things that they were saying to me about what Tenderheaded meant to them. Like Tenderheaded got me through quarantine. Tenderheaded got me through this divorce, this breakup, this depression that came along with everything going on in the world. And so I guess what they've taught me is that everything that I do matters. The people that love my music, not me getting emotional, the people that love my music love it unconditionally. And while I feel like I'm just getting started and I'm not going to stop, a part of me is full and fulfilled by the way that the listeners that I've gained thus far, the way that they have loved and supported and carried me. Like, it is an unconditional love, and the way that the impact that my music has had on them, I'm like, what? It's like that? Mm-hmm. And the way that fuels me to keep creating, you have no idea. And for an artist like myself that sometimes can struggle with imposter syndrome or sometimes feel like it's too late, you know, having people who are like, no. The album that you didn't get to take on tour, we needed this album for what was going to happen to us on a personal level during quarantine. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, you would have had some impact on tour for sure. But the kind of music we needed when we were stuck in our house, everybody was going through breakups in quarantine. It was intense. Yep. We needed this album for this time and you made it. Thank you. I was like, whoa. I'm like not a internet crier, but I remember going on my story and like thanking people for what they were tagging me. And I was like legit like tearing up because something that I thought had fallen flat for a nice group of people, it carried them. And I think they've taught me that like, I really can't fail, you know, as long as I'm true to myself and as long as I'm creating from my heart, it's going to reach other people's hearts in a way that will always, it will always fuel me. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
And I think that's a testament to how you've been intentional about building community and then being there and showing up for the people who do listen to your music. And then also the realness that comes with your projects as well, like I had mentioned earlier.
Yeah. I will say that when I am writing, this is another thing I don't know that I'll let go. Like sometimes what slows down my process is I'm like, I'm trying to tell the truth here. And sometimes it takes a second to get the truth to come up for you to tell it. And so a lot of times like I'm sitting at my desk in my studio and I'm like, what am I feeling right now? And I know once I can put my finger on the feeling, I'm going to write something really good. So I don't want to write about like, you know, I've been in writing sessions before and somebody might say something about like a location that I've never been to. And I'd be like, that's your line. I'm not singing that. And maybe I take myself too serious in that regard, but I do think that my magic is like wearing my heart outside my body through my songs. And so like, as I'm learning to like hustle and be faster about my process, I still need to keep my heart centered and forward. And I also need to protect it in that process. And so that's why I say like, we got to check back in a year and see how all of this works out, because there is a part of my process that I am not going to let go. And that it is that part, because I could make a lot of money off music and have 1 million followers. And if my songs got empty and flat, I know I would be unfulfilled and unhappy. So it's important to me that stays intact. Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Where are all of the soul R&B influenced singers when it comes to like the Detroit scene? Because right now, as far as hip hop and rap goes, like it's definitely our moment. But like, as you know, this Motown, like this is plenty of singers that's either in the church or like used to do their thing, come from a long line of singers. But where is that momentum as far as like, and mainstream might not be the play for everybody or where people want to go. But as far as I feel like there's a void right now for people who are who make similar music to you as far as just the soul aspect of it, R&B, like true, like singing, that type of stuff. I feel like there's a void from that standpoint. So just curious, like if you...
I would say what's going on now, Amber Lewis does a really cool night at Willis Show Bar. I think it's on pause for now, but on Thursday she was showcasing a lot of like those more live music, like neo soul R&B artists in that space. I know some people who are really trying to create spaces for it. Like there's Caleb Shoemake, who's making really great music, Isis DeMille, Lori Love, Super Cool Wicked. She's incredible. So there's those artists are here, I should say. But I do feel like we end up having to create our own opportunities. So like if you're not getting the opening slots for like the bigger artists that come in town, when do you perform? Right. So that's why I think what Amber was doing at Willis was really cool. But you're right. There's not enough opportunities for artists like myself and some of those artists that I mentioned. And I know Nico Noir, I forgot her, to really just be able to like sing and get seen singing here. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was thinking about this not too long ago, just as far as like R&B and from a woman's standpoint as well, like post Motown, like who are the women singers that kind of like came out of Detroit? And it's not like a ton that at least come off the top of mind, because we had, what is her name? I'm blanking on her name, but she was the first singer signed to Rockefeller.
From here?
Yeah. She was on Love and Hip Hop. I can't remember.
Tierra Marie.
Tierra Marie. We had Tierra Marie. Queen Naija. I don't know if she's from Detroit?
I think so.
Okay. Or at least Michigan.
Is she from Detroit? Yeah.
She at least from Michigan, I think.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, that like.
And with all love to those ladies, I don't consider that like to be a child of Motown, like what that music sounds like. Yep. Humbly, I would say that I really make modern Motown music, very much driven by live instrumentation and the kind of songwriting that makes you feel like I'm included in this. Like that's Motown. And Motown was bright too. Like there was a certain deliberate positivity about Motown. And I've really done my best to create from that legacy. But I think Detroit is like, you have Motown and that's like our biggest thing that we've done musically, but we kind of just, the city, like it's a little bit more R&B, like, and R&B and Motown are so not the same to me.
That's a fact.
You know, so a lot of our singers, they probably end up in Atlanta or just in other spaces that are more R&B adjacent. And then Detroit, you know, any space that's under-resourced, the arts suffer the most. And so we are an under-resourced city. Unfortunately, we're getting there. We're coming back. We're seeing the culture that has never left Detroit. We're seeing it actually get an opportunity to be showcased, like Afro Nation coming to Detroit in August. That's incredible. But I think ultimately when a city is under-resourced, the arts go first. Just like school district, when the budget gets cut, it's like arts go. And so I think in general, Detroit just has not had an infrastructure that's had an excess that they could put towards arts. But I think as everything starts to elevate, we're going to see that this city specifically elevates when we elevate the artists. If you look at the moment that was Motown, yes, there was something happening on an industrial level with automobiles, right? But ultimately, Motown and the music being created from this space has a lot to do with it. And so I think, and I see some people really doing some great work around it. My guy Addo, that's with Bedrock, he does a lot of work around, I really think Afro Nation is coming here because of him. That's just like my shameless plug from my brother. But I see him creating spaces for artists to really, you know, he's like doing a happy hour at the Shinola Hotel on a Monday where Donovan Glover is DJing. That means something for somebody to go to a happy hour on a Monday in Detroit where one of our best DJs is spinning. And so I'm seeing those things start to happen. And I think the people who know something know that elevating the artists elevates the city.
Nice. Yeah. I like how you put that.
Yeah.
So what's next for Charity? What's on the horizon? Any exclusive drops about projects you might be able to give us? Or
not really anything like I have no dates that I can share. My goal is to put some music out before my PJ Morton show. I'm opening for PJ at the Aretha on August 16th. And then, really what's next for Charity is like continuing to undergo these updates and to allow that to manifest in my creative process and also in my like outcomes and deliverables, right? Like it's not enough for it to just happen here. I need to be able to touch something that's a reflection of it. So that's really where I am right now.
And are you putting a time frame on your updates and refresh?
I am in terms of like, okay, time to put some music out. That's enough. You know, so like August, you got to put some music out.
Gotcha.
You know, yes. That's all I can say.
For sure. And where can the good people find you if they want to listen to your music, if they want to learn more about you, follow your journey?
Yes. So if you want to listen to my music, it's available on all streaming platforms. So, and it's under Charity, Charity. My last project is called Seasoned. It's a Christmas project for the most part, but you might still like another one on there that's kind of neutral, kind of gospel. And then Tenderheaded is my full length project. Before that, you can also follow me on Instagram at Charity, Charity. charitytheartist.com. Not too much happening on the website. So yeah.
Nice. And then for the, like I said earlier, the 4 people who may have not heard of Charity just yet, like I said, I'm a recent fan. I listened to both Tenderheaded and Seasoned. I thought they were amazing.
You listen to Seasoned in the summertime?
I listen to it in the
cool.
I will listen to it in the summertime.
I was bumping it the other day, like, dang, timeless.
Exactly. That's the type of vibe that it gave off. So didn't even recognize it was a holiday or a Christmas type project. Like I just like, oh, this is some real music during the middle of the winter. That's
I appreciate that. That's how I wanted it to come off. Yeah. That's nice. Good. It's good.
Mission accomplished.
Yes. Thank you.
Well, Charity, thank you so much for the creative projects and the work that you do. As you can tell, as you already know, impacting people in so many different ways. So grateful that you stopped by the podcast and shared your journey with us.
Thank you. I really enjoyed the conversation. This is my first time talking about a lot of this stuff, so it felt good to like hear it. So yeah, let's definitely do this in a year and see where I'm at.
Say less. It's done. And everybody watching, we'll see y'all later. Peace.